In this video, we're going to be going over exactly how much dividend income I received in the month of September from a $38,000 account. And to analyze this, we're going to be looking at my do-it-yourself investor toolkit, where we can see things like my investment dashboard, we can see things like my dividend dashboard. We're going to look at my dividend calendar and my daily dividend calendar as well. If you'd like to be able to download this spreadsheet, then you can head over to my Patreon page at the link in the description. Now, the month of September was a pretty terrible month for the market as a whole. We can see the S&P 500 is now down over 25% year to date. The Dow just closed its worst month in September in over 20 years, and the S&P 500 just notched its new low for 2022. Now, as a long-term value dividend investor, you have to understand that I look at this as an opportunity. This gives me the ability to buy companies whose intrinsic value is currently higher than their current trading price, and to buy companies who currently have a higher dividend yield. So let's go ahead and zoom in and start to analyze this. And the first thing we will glance at is if we come over here, we can see my overall portfolio value slightly below $38,000. Now, my portfolio cost is about $42,000. So based purely off of capital gains, we can see that I'm down about $4,500. So yes, that is really bad. We can see overall that's down 10.59%, but you have to understand the S&P 500 during that same amount of time is down over 25%. So when you compare it to that, that's actually pretty dang good. Now, that's without including dividends. If we include dividends, we can see I'm actually only down 7.38%. What this is going to allow me to do, though, is also reinvest my dividends at better prices, and it will allow me to receive more dividend income in the future. And this also provides opportunity to add more capital to my higher conviction positions. We can see all of this is currently stocks. I also track crypto in this portfolio, but I don't currently own any. If we zoom down a little bit further, we can see my allocation between cash and stocks. You can see I'm currently sitting on about 26% cash, which is a really great sign. It's going to allow me to buy more positions at this lower market price. We can see my total holdings at the time is currently sitting about 32. But let's go ahead and come over here and start looking at these charts. And the first one we'll look at is my cost and market value chart. Let me go ahead and zoom in just a little bit more so you can see this better. And what you'll notice is the blue line is going to be our cost and the red will be our market value. So for most of these positions, you can see the blue line is above the red line, meaning that the current market value is a little bit below my cost, but you can begin to see some of the positions that I hold in my dividend portfolio. Coming over here, we can see some of the growth from my positions. A lot of them are down quite a bit at the moment, but we still have a few that are doing fairly well. You can see Coca-Cola up over 14%, SJM up over 14%, Starbucks up almost 7%, and then we have a position in Target that we recently added, almost up 3%. But other than that, the market's down so much, you can see most of these positions are down, but I am starting to add capital to some of my higher conviction positions. If we scroll up here, we're going to be able to see my diversification by each individual position. And one of the things you'll notice is we have a couple of ETFs, both making up pretty large positions in my portfolio. These are very safe and they do pay out a dividend, not a super high dividend yield, but we will see some dividend growth out of these. But overall, the ETFs take up about 25% of my portfolio, as you can see right here. Now, this position right here, 18.5% of my entire portfolio is Microsoft. It's about $7,000 in market value currently. Other than that, we have a couple of other large positions. You can see Coca-Cola's about 6.2% of my overall portfolio, but other than that, it's fairly well diversified. As we can see, a lot of the positions take up about anywhere from 2, 3 to even 4% of my overall portfolio. If we scroll down a little bit further, we can see my stock allocation by industry. So financials take up about 23% of my overall portfolio, technology at about 23%, which is no surprise when you see Microsoft is one of my big positions. We have real estate at almost about 10%, consumer defensive around 12%, and then ETFs around 12.1%. Now, there's something else that I do want to glance at. We'll look at further into this in just a moment, but that's my future portfolio outlook. And you can kind of see at a glance what I'm expecting from my future portfolio, but we'll come back and look at this in just a minute and I'll explain why. But let's go ahead and jump over to my dividend dashboard. And this is where we're really going to be able to analyze my overall dividend portfolio performance over the last few months. There's a couple of different things we want to look at. First, we'll look at the expected yearly dividend income, now at $1,450 every single year. That's continuing to climb, which is a really great sign for me since I'm looking to one day live off of dividend income. My all-time dividend income sitting at about $1,360, and my average monthly dividends is now over $120. That's a really great start. And my portfolio dividend yield sitting at about 3.42%. Right here, we're going to be able to see my portfolio value over time. Started out kind of slow, but I've really been been adding capital as the market has gone down over the past few months, as we can see right here. My dividend income by industry, we can see financials gives me a lot of my dividend income at about 33%. We can see real estate provides about 15% of my dividend income, consumer defensive about 12%, and then technology about 10%. Right here, we have one of the most important charts, I think, in this entire portfolio, and that's my historical monthly dividend income. And we can see I started tracking this back in February of 2021. Since then, we can see an upward trend. My highest month so far was in April when I had about $133 in dividend income. A few months ago, I had $129. August 106, and this month from my portfolio you can see I made about $91 to $92. Now you have to understand this could be quite a bit higher if I was focusing more on higher yielding positions, but I'm a dividend growth investor. So what does that mean? Well, I'm going to invest in companies that continue to increase the amount they pay out in dividends over time, and over the long term this is going to allow me to receive better returns on my investment. This is going to allow me to receive dividend yields on cost, believe it or not, of even 30, 40, or 50% over time, because the companies I invest in are going to continue to increase the amount they pay out in dividends. So while this could be quite a bit higher, long term this is going to help me out. Right here we can see my dividend yield on cost. I do have a few positions with fairly high dividend yields, but they are positions that I believe in. But for the most part, these are more stable companies. You can see like Bank of America, we can see Domino's Pizza, INTC, Starbucks, Lowe's, just for example. Now over here, we're looking at my dividend income by each individual stock. So you can see where most of these positions are paying out, a decent amount, but I do have a few that pay out the majority. Now I did add more capital into Altria Group MO, and they're now paying me $122 every single year. We can see ACRE at $110, Coca-Cola at about $73. Two of my ETFs right here, both paying out around $75 to $80. And then other than that, it's fairly well diversified once again. Now jumping over and looking at my dividend calendar, this is where we're going to be able to see exactly how much I was paid out in dividends this month and from which positions. If you're not using a dividend calendar to track your dividend income, you're really missing a great opportunity to see how much you're paid out in dividends over time and to track your dividend growth over time. So for example, if we come over here and say we want to look at O, this is a monthly dividend paying company, so we can see how they pay out more each month. Because I reinvest my dividends, how that dividend growth is going to look. But coming over here again, September, we received $91.69 in dividend income, and we can see where that's coming from. We received about $6.86 from IBM, $6.87 from J&J, $1.65 from KHC. Scroll down, you can kind of see the positions that paid me dividends this month. We had a pretty large dividend payer here with Microsoft at $15.53. Come down here, we can see from one of my ETFs, I received over a $20 dividend payment, but other than that, it was fairly small amounts that did start to add up to lead up to that $91.69. If we jump back over to my daily dividend calendar, this is going to allow me to see exactly what days I was paid in dividends in September. So we can see the first, a decent day at $8.63, $6.87 on the 6th, a lower day on the 7th. The 8th was a pretty good day. I guess that's the day Microsoft paid me dividends at $15.53. Scroll all the way over here, we can see my highest day was on the 28th when I received $20.39 in dividend income. Now the last thing that we do want to glance at is what I mentioned earlier. On our investment dashboard, we have our future portfolio outlook. And what this is coming from, if we come over here and look at my portfolio projection tab, this is where I model out my future portfolio performance, and we're tracking things like my monthly dividend payout, my total dividend income comparison, and my total value comparison over time. And we're comparing what it'll look like without reinvesting dividends and when we do reinvest dividends. In order to project this, we do have to make some assumptions about my portfolio. I'm listing my starting portfolio size right here, which is about $38,000, so I'll plug that in here. Now we have to project a price growth rate and a dividend growth rate. So typical price growth rate for the S&P 500 or most ETFs that are broad market ETFs is going to be around 9, 10, or even 11% at times. But I'm only projecting 7% growth. And why is that? Well, again, it's because I'm a dividend growth investor. I'm focusing on companies that increase the amount they pay out in dividends over time. So because of this, I am getting a higher dividend growth rate projection. So you can see my price growth rate is about 7%, but my dividend growth rate is a little bit higher than most ETFs at 7%. Now I'm projecting that I'm going to add around $2,500 every single month to this portfolio. And I know that's a lot. That's not something most people can do, but you have to look for opportunities to really save so you can increase your dividend income over time. But I'm projecting this out over a 30-year period. And if we jump back over to my investment dashboard, we're going to be able to see at a glance what the performance will look like. So right now we can switch this to not reinvesting dividends, and we'll see what this looks like over 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30-year periods. But we can see when we're not reinvesting our dividends, this is what our results will look like. In 5 years, we'll receive about $8,046 in yearly dividends. But if we switch this back over to reinvesting dividends, we can see it'd be around $9,000. Now, the further down you go, you're gonna be able to see more incremental differences in reinvesting and not reinvesting dividends. So for example, let's say we want to look at what our performance will be in 20 years. Let's say we want to look at it when we don't reinvest dividends over that same time. We'd still be receiving about $50,000 a year in dividend income. Our total dividend income received in that amount of time would be $413,000, and my portfolio value will be about $1.4 million. But if we reinvest dividends over that same amount of time, we can see a pretty large difference right here. Yearly dividends would be around $80,000, total dividend income $570,000, and my portfolio value would be about $2.3 million. Now for the final example, let's look at a 30-year period right here. If we do not reinvest dividends over that time, I'd still be receiving around $116,000 in yearly dividend income. Total dividend income received would be about $1.2 million, and my portfolio value would be over $3.3 million. But this is where things get crazy. If we do reinvest dividends over that same amount of time, we can see each year I'd be receiving over $245,000 in yearly dividend income. My total dividend income received would be over $2 million, and my portfolio value would be over $7.16 million. And that right there is the exact reason I am a long-term value dividend investor. So there you go. That is how much dividend income I received in the month of September from a $38,000 account. Again, really terrible month for September overall, but this is leading to opportunities for me to add more capital to my higher conviction positions and maybe add some new positions in the future where I can buy companies that were overpriced at the time but now may be more fairly priced. Go ahead and let me know what you think of my portfolio in the comments down below. If you'd like to be able to download the spreadsheet, you can head over to my Patreon page at the link in the description. So that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.